Hi everyone, it's Sarah Newton here from sarah-newton.com and theyouthexpert.com. I know that lots of you have said you wanted to be on this Google Hangout, but for some reason you can't make it, or you can't get the technology to work so well, and blah 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 blah. So I'm just going to go ahead, and if you join us, you join us. If not, you get to listen to this great recording, which is fantastic, and I'm hoping you can hear and see me okay. I think you can, because if I look in the one I had going on here, you could. So hopefully it's all okay. So we're going to be talking about Generation Z, or Generation Z if you're in the States, on this Google Hangout today. I'm hoping that it's going to last about an hour, but it might be a bit quick, and we may finish earlier. So please don't hold me to it. There, you can ask me a question at any time, or you can pop up on chat. Now, I know that a few of you had some challenges doing this. All I have to do, and I tried it actually on someone else's Google Hangout, is if you hold your mouse over the picture of yourself or the big picture on the screen, and sort of go over to the left-hand side, you should see lots of little boxes. So if you want to ask a question, you can there. If you want to chat, you can there. So hopefully that will all work. Before we go on and I start to talk, I just want to tell you a few things. Firstly, I am not a statistician. I'm not a sociology person. I'm a person that works with young people, and so my experiences that I'm going to share with you today are going to be coming from my experiences working with young people. I will use a few stats that have come from other people and things that I'm seeing, but mainly it's based on my experience. So I don't want you to come here and think that you're going to get like a really academic sort of lecture here. It's not. You want to know any of the stats that I'm using, just email me, sarah@sarah-newton.com, and I will let you have them if I've got them. But this stuff is stuff that I've sort of gathered, and sometimes I know where it's from and sometimes I don't. So if you're listening and I've used some of your stuff, and I didn't say it was from you, please let me know too. I'm not in the process of pinching things, but sometimes I forget where I've got things. So that's just a little bit about where I'm coming from. I've got a slideshow to share with you here. Okay, it kicked me off there. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. And hopefully this is all. I am recording it on something else anyway, so hopefully this is all still working and going live. But who knows? This might be the second part of another part, and there might end up being two videos that I've got to mush together. But anyway, oh, don't we just love technology sometimes? So we're talking about Generation Z. I'm going to be sharing a slideshow. As of yet, I haven't quite figured out how to do this without you actually showing it as a slideshow. You'll have to just look at the slides as if you were creating them. So they're not going to look as pretty as I wanted them to, which is a little bit sad. But as I tried it, it didn't seem to work. So bear with me here. Okay, so let's get going here. Let me share my screen with you, and hopefully all is working well. Okay. So, Generation Z, I just want to make sure that you are still seeing what I'm seeing here. So let me just double check for you here. Okay, so about this. Okay, I think you are. I think everything's all right. So, but like I say, I'm recording this on something else if it's not going right. So, Generation Z or Generation Z. Now, hopefully this will all become clear as we're sort of moving forward. They are the generation that are our children at the moment. Now, there's lots of confusion and ifs and buts and don't knows about the age that Generation Z starts. Now, the age that I'm going to say it starts, which I know a lot of people will disagree with me, is 2001, and that is basically based on my opinion, based on my experience, and based on what I see in the UK. What I do know is that when these young people hit year 7 in secondary schools, which was last year, so they're now in year 8, so they are now 12 to 13. When they hit their first year of secondary school, I got so many calls from heads and teachers going, whoa, these kids are different. They're requiring really different things. You know, what do we need to do with them? So my thoughts were always that they started in 2001, but when that happened, it really confirmed. You get lots of different opinions. Some are saying 1995. I don't necessarily think that that's correct, but hey, all I can do is tell you what I believe. So Generation Z, there we are. And hopefully throughout we're going to learn who they are. So you might think, why do we need to understand generational theory? And I have to say, it's not something that probably 7 or 8 years ago I'd even heard of. But as I started to investigate our young people, I started to see that they were very different. And I delved into loads of generational theory to really understand what was going on and who our young people were, and got slightly obsessed with it. Because I do believe if we can see the next generation that are coming up, if we can learn a little bit of generational theory, we can start to understand the future, which is what it's about. And we can't predict the future because of course no one can, but we can say what we think might happen. Now, the generational theory that I love and use a lot is one by Strauss and Howe, I believe that's what it's called. I like it because it's really simple and it makes sense to me. I know there's lots of others out there. I know people that are really into this stuff hate the model that I use, but that's fine. It explains what I think we need to in a way that we understand, and that's all cool and fine and dandy as far as I'm concerned. So there's something that I want to say before we sort of move on here, is that we have to be careful with generational theory. Because really making sweeping generalizations is bad for your health, and all generational theory does, and all I'm going to do today is make sweeping generalizations. Can't even talk, it is hot in the UK, we're not used to it. So that's all I'm going to do is make sweeping generalizations. And the way I look at generational theory is, if you can imagine that you're sort of in a helicopter and you're looking down at a piece of land, say that land's got forest or trees in, you might be up in the helicopter and you might look down and everything might look the same or similar. And you'll know that all those trees are growing in the south of England, and they're a certain amount of miles away from the sea, so you'll vaguely know how those trees are growing. Clearly, if you got off your helicopter and into the forest, you would see that every single tree is different, that some are closer to the water than others, and that's affecting them. So that's how I like to see generational theory. It is not saying you are this. It's getting into a helicopter and taking a huge view on a generation, and a generation generally is lasting about 25 years. So please do not sort of send me messages telling me that you don't fit into this category, or you don't like this, or you know, that's fine. We're all individuals. It's based on when a child reaches their sort of teen years. Generational theory is really based on what's happening when they're in their teen years, which is the years that is believed to shape you most. And of course, this generation, yeah, some of them have got there. Well, actually, yeah, some of them may have just turned 13, so they are just entering into their teen years. So we don't really know, but we can sort of make guesses on what's already happened and what we are seeing. So you see, look, this is what this is what I don't like, the fact that you've got to see this, because that's not good. Okay, so who are Generation Z? Well, they are a generation that were babies when 9/11 happened, for a start, which I think is quite significant. You know, they don't really remember any of that. 1 in 4 of them are apparently living in poverty. These are stats from, I believe, Something and Honey. I just want to make sure I give you, and actually that's their slide as well, so I really want to make sure that Sparks and Honey did a report. So there's lots of things being hitting the news about Generation Z, and this is clearly about America. The thing that I've best read on this generation in the UK is by a man called William Hyam. Sorry if I spelt his name wrong or said his name wrong. He is a futurist and a strategy consultant, and is actually the author of The Next Big Thing. And what he's called this generation is SAFIs, which I think is really interesting, which stands for Serious, Active, Forward-Facing Youth. Now, remember, when we're talking generational theory, we are talking the children that are, you know, we're talking about the mass market children, the mass sort of, you know, middle class, for want of another word. We're not talking about the children that, you know, are finding it difficult to eat and in a life of crime, because I think there's always extremes. And what we're talking about when we're talking about a generation is the mass. We're not talking about the extremes. So what he has found, and what's so interesting, and what I believe, why I love this, is because I remember sort of about 5 years ago saying that Generation Z were going to be the most traditional generation to ever come along, that we were going to see in our lifetime, and people kind of spitting out their coffee at me and telling me I'd gone slightly insane. But he's written a great article on what he calls SAFIs, and there's some interesting stats in there. Only 43% of 12 to 17s have drank alcohol, which might still seem a lot, but actually in 2003 it was 61%. Illegal drug use is down from 29% to 17%. Casual sex is absolutely on the decline, and I think there's lots of evidence of that. And teenage pregnancies are on the way down. And the age that Britain, sorry, I'm reading this as well slightly at the same time, it's not flowing off my tongue so easily. The age Britons lose their virginity is rising year by year, and young people are having longer term relationships, and I'm seeing this, but it's actually starting to come out in the stats now. So as you can see, they are a different generation. They absolutely are. And I think we're going to see less and less of these awful headlines, although, like I say, there's always going to be that cohort of young people that still misbehave and still do things like that. So let's have a look. So I'll take you through the 4 generational turning points here and just give you an indication of how generational theory works, or how the generational theory that I like works. It really says that every 25 years there's something that happens in the world that changes that, you know, the world slightly, and means that generation is going to grow up in a different world. We have awakening, unraveling, a crisis, and a high. Now the Generation Z, here they are actually been born in a crisis. And we can see that, you know, 9/11 happened when the first of them were born. Then we've got all the banking, you know, all the crisis, all the, you know, the financial markets, and we had all of that going on. Then we had the recession, and as they're coming into their teen years now, yes, we're moving out of it, but you know, they got their messages when they were children. You know, they're quite deeply ingrained with them. So people that were born during an awakening, this is my generation called Generation X, they tend to be the generation that destroys all social norms. So they are the really, really badly behaved young people. And this is probably why we think that our young people are so badly behaved, because we, as their parents, were. Children born under an unraveling, this was Generation Y. They were born from 85 to 2001. So these are your young people that are over 13. Now, I definitely would say that young people between about 13 and 18 tend to exhibit some category. Some characteristics, there's the word I was looking for, from Generation Y and some from Generation X. So there definitely is this point where, you know, we're kind of crossing over. But in my belief, in this country, someone who was born after 2001 is a Generation X, before is a Generation Y, and there is subtle differences in the way the two of them behave. And then we have a crisis, which is our current young people born 2001. They reckon that the next change will come in about 2023, 2025, and then we have a high. Yeah, we're all looking forward to that, aren't we? And next one, probably 2023. This was our last baby boomers born 46 to 64. Oh, I've just got a cup of tea, that's what we like. So that is really how it works. It works on the 4 generational turning points. And yes, you know, it is a bit simplistic, and I probably simplified it much more than it actually is, but I like it because, like I say, I like things simple. Oh, let me go back here, sorry. So if you look at it like that, and this is the reason I really like this model, because it makes sense to me. So you have a generation, this is Generation X, which is what I belong to, which are mostly the parents of our young people now. They come along and they kind of destroy everything. They rip everything down. They rip up the fabric of society and change all the social norms. Then you have a generation come up behind them, which are, you know, our older young people, and they are called the hero generation. They come along to save us from the chaos that the generation before us caused. The generation before, interestingly, called nomads, because they're actually very individualistic. Then you've got our heroes that come along, which are our older young people now, and they unravel what's going on, and they make sense, and they start to build new orders. And then you have the generation that come along behind them, which is the generation we're talking about now, our Generation Z. And I believe that their job is to come along and build up. So everything was broken down. Then Generation Y came along as the heroes and pulled it all back together and started the process of innovation and started the process of building things. Then we're going to get the generation that come up behind them that are going to put the structure in place and make sure that everything that Generation Y talked about and started to build is solid, because Generation Y can be a bit fleeting. And then the next generation that will come along sort of reaches for a utopia, really. They want to make everything ideal. So they take the stuff that Generation Y started to build and Generation Z started to make structured and make lasting, and they add legacy to it. So if you are in an industry, these are the generations that I think this is probably one of the only generations that knows the difference between a vision and a mission. You know, they're the corporate away days. You know, they want to leave a legacy. They want to make everything perfect. So that's how the 4 generations work all together, and that's why I like this model, because that really makes sense to me. So this is the generation that we are talking about today, Generation Z. Okay, so here are some of the images that would have been popular to Generation Y. And clearly I'm talking about the younger Generation Ys here, not the older ones. So we had, and this will really, I think, shows you the difference between the 2 generations. So Generation Y, you know, we had X Factor come along, we had Pop Idol, everything was shiny and everything was like, you know, blingy, and everyone could make it to be famous in a heartbeat, One Direction. You know, then we had the Twilight Saga, Waterloo Road, Jessie J and Lady Gaga, which some of the much older generations Ys really relate to Lady Gaga, really creative. You know, and then we've got, you know, the phones just, you know, became like the extensions of themselves. So very influenced a lot by the media and by things that were going on outside. You could put the Kardashians possibly on there, Katie Price possibly if you're in the UK, but, you know, influenced by the media. The media had a real hold on them, and it was all shiny and bright, and it was all, you know, big franchises, big book franchises. Twilight Saga really influenced this generation massively. Hunger Games, although that was also had a little bit of an impact on Generation Z too. So, you know, they're the images. That's what they were going with. And oh, I can't remember his name. Don Tascott did a big research project on Generation Y, and this is what he found, what he called the Generation Y norm. So remember, here we're talking about children over 13. Innovation, speed, entertainment, customization, freedom, scrutiny, integrity, and collaboration. And I still hold true that they are the norms of our children over 13. So it's very confusing, all these dates. You know, they want to customize everything. They're all about innovation. It's all about entertainment. It's all about speed. Really free generation, great at teamwork, but you know, had that scrutiny and integrity piece going on. So if that's what Generation Y was, then what is the generation that's coming up behind them? And it's difficult, this, because there isn't a lot of research, there isn't a lot of stuff out there for them. So I am going with what I see and what I know from the young people that I work with. So if I was to give you images of people that have influenced this generation, or are influencing them, there you go. And my guess is that you probably know not one of those people. Oh, excuse me, I got the hiccups there. Just take a drink here. You might know some of them. I'm going to struggle to remember all their names. I think this is Zoella. I think this is PewDiePie. I think this is Cutie Pie. I think this is Stiller09. And I think this is Cupquake. They are all YouTubers. I mean, I look at, you know, most of these young people do not watch mainstream telly. I mean, and we know that that's happening with our older young people, but this age group, you know, 13 down, they're not watching mainstream telly. They're not even, you know, that mainstream media is not even generally on their radar. They are getting all of the information that they need from ordinary people that are doing amazing things on YouTube. They are going to be so hard to reach, this generation. You know, and you look at all of those, and whatever you think to each one of them, they're just crazy normal people. You know, they're not sort of, yes, they're kind of celebrities in their own right, and some of these, I think PewDiePie here is one of the most subscribed to channels. Some of their videos get watched more than TV programs and some films that are coming out. Yeah, some of their videos are getting 3 million, you know, people watching them. I mean, this is influence, and this is who is influencing our young people, and the media have got very little hold over them. And yeah, I mean, I look at my own home, and I am a TV and telly addict. We have just got rid of our telly, and we don't have one anymore in our house. Well, we have one actually in the bedroom, but it's hardly ever on because we just all watch Netflix. So very interesting. So the advertisers are going to have a real challenge getting to this generation. These are the people that are influencing them. I mean, my daughter, who is 13, nearly, is she 13? Or is she 12? Oh, I think she's 13. I get so confused. Yeah, 13. So some of them maybe 14. Anyway, you know. Anyway, I'm not even going to go there. I'm so bad at maths. You know, she will come down with recipes that this girl here particularly has come up with. And the other day, she's eating avocado and egg for breakfast and working out because this YouTuber told her to. I went and told her I was going to take her to see a film this weekend, Dawn of the Apes, and she said, great, because I was watching a YouTube video the other day of, I can't remember who it was, and they said it was great. You know, these YouTubers have so much power over these young people. Ooh, let me just go back there. Ooh, it's difficult like this. And here we go. Let me just move this out of the way. So this is why I needed to really do a presentation. They use social media as a research tool. 52% of them use YouTube or other social media sites for typical research assignments. That's massive. And actually, this research done by Spax and Honey, I think, believed this generation was born from 1995. So if I think we look at them born from 2001, you're going to find that that's all they're using. And it's interesting that, you know, they have grown up not thinking, not that you make it by going on to a TV show and getting lucky in front of Simon Cowell. They have grown up believing that you make it by getting your video camera and filming yourself and doing it yourself. I mean, 64% of them considered earning. Okay, so 64% of them want to do. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading that. It's so small. 64% of them want to study degree, which is actually down from millennials. Generation Y, it was only 71%. 30% of them are putting their graduation dates back. I mean, these are young people that have grown up seeing ordinary people doing amazing things by themselves. You know, these YouTubers have not needed anybody else to do what they're doing. It's all graft and hard work, and they have seen a lot of their older siblings, particularly, you know, their older Generation Ys, struggle in the workplace as they went in when it was a crisis. So they've really seen them struggle. So you're not going. It's going to be hard to get them into sort of typical employment, really, because they're well, why should I do that when I can go, you know, and do this myself? I mean, my daughter now makes the most amazing little videos with these little toy things she's got, and they're like works of art. You know, it's like, wow, it's just animation almost by herself, and you know, they're all doing it. So, you know, and I don't think we know yet what massive impact that is that's going to have. The three things that you know, at the moment, they are, you know, you couldn't take away from them. With, you know, with the millennials and our Generation Ys, you couldn't really take away their phones. If you took away their phones, you'd be massively in trouble. With this generation, yeah, they love their phones, but, you know, take away YouTube, Minecraft, or Netflix, and they'll probably kill you. Particularly YouTube. You know, and let me get on to gaming. Minecraft, the more and more young girls are gaming. Much more than their Generation Y counterparts. So that's going to be big. I'm just taking a sip of tea here. Excuse me. So they're the three things you should never take away from them. So what would be their norms then? If we went through the Gen Y norms, what do I believe that their norms are? Like I say, this is one of the most traditional generations we're ever going to see. You know, they were brought up during a crisis where most of the adults were panicking in their lives a bit when they were growing up, and that's taught them to be actually really quite a caring generation. They've also been very overprotected by the adults in their lives because they're adults in their lives of Generation X, some Generation Ys. We were, you know, so naughty that we overprotect our own children, and everyone went, you know, everything went very insular when we had all the crisis happen. You know, everyone suddenly went back to family and stopped doing as much because there wasn't as much money. So they're very caring and family orientated. They are very, very. You can't plan on this generation particularly. I don't think you can make something look better by putting bells, whistles, and shinings on it, which maybe you could with a generation above them. They just want something real. They want to be told how it is. They don't want fluff. And this is what one of the schools were really noticing when they started going into secondary schools. Like, we can't flannel this year. They're not really so big on rewards and all that kind of gig. They're just like, look, just tell me what I've got to do, and like, you know, I'll get on with it. You know, they're real grafters, actually. They're very, very creative. You know, if we thought Generation Y were creative, we haven't seen anything yet. I mean, this generation have been using their video cameras and doing amazing things with them. They're quite funny. They're quite a humorous generation. If you ever look at any of the YouTube videos that they are watching, they're quite funny. Most of them are quite funny, and so they, you know, humor is really, really important to them, and comedy is really, really important to them. And I was just thinking of like the TV programs that they grew up with when they were small, and iCarly just popped into my head, which again, you know, is a show about someone making a web show. So there you go. Very caring. They're quite serious and very responsible. They have this real responsibility to do the right thing, and are serious in their sort of endeavours. So they do have this humorous side, but I think they're very serious, and they're a very responsible generation. They're very self-developed. as a generation. And what do I mean by this? That they are very emotionally intelligent. You know, they've had lots of time with their parents. Their parents have been talking to them a lot and asking them a lot of questions, and you know, and because their parents have been, you know, sometimes in turbulent times in the financial crisis, they've been worried a lot. So they've been talking to their kids, they've been asking them how they feel, they've been, you know, working with them. These children have grown up in a time where coaching and you know, all that kind of, you know, mentoring and all that sort of thing is part of their world. You know, they're very used to mentors and coaches going into schools and helping them. Generation Y, not so much. So they are very emotionally intelligent. They're very self-developed, and they're going to expect to have guidance counselors. They're going to expect to have coaches. They're going to expect to have mentors. They're going to expect to have that sort of personal development that wasn't there before. Very earnest. You know, I can't really say anything else about. They are a really earnest generation. They really, really do want to do the right thing. They have very sincere and very intense conviction, and like I say, very caring. So I remember once watching a video, the Coke Happiness video, which was a very Gen Y video, whereas they put Coke machines into colleges, and these Coke machines sort of gave free Coke and cakes and everything out. And I remember watching it with a group of Gen Z kids, and them baffled by it. I mean, the Generation Y I thought was great. Oh, this is great. We wish this come to my college. And the younger Generation Zs were sort of baffled, going, why would they do that? Why would they give out Cokes? Why don't they just give the money to people that needed it? And I thought it was really interesting. So they do have this entirely different way to look at the world. They are hugely independent. They are doing amazing things without any adults whatsoever. Now, they care, they really, you know, they care about the adults in their lives. Their parents are really, really important to them, and they will turn to them in crisis to talk about their emotions. They'll turn to them for that emotional support, absolutely. But what they are unlikely to turn to them so much for is, how do I get into this university? How do I get this job? You know, they're very used to doing this all by themselves. There's a great quote here by Don Schwabel, I think I said his name right, who founded Millennium Branding and is an actual millennial himself. And he says millennials seeked mentors, and they did. Generation Y, they're all about helping themselves. Now, and I know that contradicts what I've just said about coaching and mentoring. Let me explain here what I mean. This generation will want coaches and mentors to deal with their emotional support. Generation Y didn't really want that or have it. Generation Y wanted the mentors and they wanted the support to know how to do something to get ahead. This generation will not want that because they know what to do to get ahead. They've been seeing it happening. So I hope that makes the sort of the difference between them. They are hugely independent with their kind of the things that they want to do, but not so independent with their sort of emotional security and their emotions and that whole kind of feely, fluffy stuff they love to do, and they want the adults in their lives there to do that. So I hope that sort of makes that a bit clearer there. So, you know, what's the norm for them? And I love this picture. This was again from the Sparks and Honey presentation. This is the norm for Gen Z, and this is the norm. This is Logan LaPlante. I think that's how you say his name. He's 13 and is an advocate for DIY education. And his TED Talk has received over 5 million views. What a lot of power this generation have got. You know, they are not scared one iota about getting out there and saying what matters to them and having a massive, massive reach. You know, they are, and we're going to see more and more of this. They're not going to let us adults boss them around on something important, I can tell you. So there you go, 5 million. 5 million. I mean, wow, that's just amazing, isn't it? Amazing. Now, these are from, again, Sparks and Honey. Really interesting thing to note here is that they really do influence household purchasing. This has been changing and changing and changing for a while, actually, but it really, really is quite massive now, with 30% of parents actually saying that their children's opinions matter when they come to home furnishings. I mean, I've just done my front room upstairs, and the majority of what is in there has been chosen by my Generation Z child. She's the one that's normally had the final decision because she really cares about it. So that's, something of interesting to note there. And they are, like I say, they really do intend to change the world. They've got stuff to do, and they're ready to go out and do it. 60% of them want to have an impact in the world, compared to 39% of millennials or Generation Ys who went before them. Roughly 1 in 4 of them are involved in some kind of volunteering. I mean, really have a huge sense of doing what's right. But the biggest challenge for them, there's a few actually. One is that they are an anxious generation. They worry, and I can't even say the word, but they worry an awful lot. An awful lot. And a lot of the stuff that I'm actually going in now and doing with younger children is about anxiety, which we haven't seen so much before. We've seen the whole, people being anxious about their bodies and the way they look, but this is like an anxiety about sort of, it's an inner anxiety, and it's about not sort of achieving or not performing and not doing what they want to do in their lives. And you can see there that frequently feeling anxious has doubled in the last 30 years, and this is going to go up and up and up. In my belief, this is one of the challenges they're going to have because they care so much that they worry so much. Just going to have some more tea here. Another thing, and I'm bringing this in there, and I'm putting it here because I think it's important, but also I don't see it as constant as bad. I just want you to know that. Attention spans. Their attention spans are getting shorter. I think that it says 8 seconds. Is particularly their attention span is going to last. They switch between devices 27 times per hour. I mean, I thought I was bad. And they spend 7.5 days on a computer. Now, yes, it's causing problems because they're not going out and they're not away from their computer. What other problems it will cause, I'm not sure that we know yet. I also think there's some good things that being online is actually doing to their brains, and things that are changing as well, but I don't really want to go into that here because that's another talk particularly. And I think that we should just be aware of this, but I don't think we should worry massively about it. We just, as parents, must get our children out of our homes and away from their technology. It's getting more and more important. Now, what's really unusual about this generation, and I put this on there because I see this, it's been like in my face. They are massive foodies. They love food. People are going to have a hard time marketing to this generation unless you sell food. They are good food. I mean, this report suggests that this rising generation is eager to make meals from fresh, and absolutely, I totally agree. And I think that there was some research that went on recently about they are, and it just fascinates me, this whole food thing, because I was in the catering industry originally, and I just find what's happening with them fascinating in this. So here you go. Their interest in cooking is expected to increase over the next 5 years. So there you've got Gen Z, there you've got your millennials in the grey, and there you've got my generation. Cooking from scratch, cooking from fresh, oven, stovetop. I mean, now I think that this could well be because when they have grown up, and when they were sat with their parents in front of TVs, mostly what their parents were watching were food shows. There's a lot of food shows out, a lot. So I think they grew up with that influence, and a lot of the YouTubers have a lot of food shows, but we're talking good food. And I think that, part of me wants to sing hallelujah, because they are going to bring about a food revolution. Be absolutely ready for it. If you're a parent that can't cook, your child's going to be cooking for you. Microwave meals are out, really, for this generation. I remember, I'm talking of them There's a big cohort. Generation Y, this was happened a little bit, but they're quite happy to stick a microwave meal in the oven if they want, if they need to. This, or the microwave, yeah, in the microwave. Sorry, this generation, they just love food, love food. I'm just going to take a sip of some more tea here. Okay. So I'm just going to leave that up there and just give you some more stats, actually, just before we get to the end here. They're hugely entrepreneurial, and I don't think that's surprising at all, considering what we're seeing on YouTube, with 72% of high school students saying they want to start a business. And 40% of them agree with the statement that said, I will invent something that changes the world. And I think that tells you a lot about this generation. They're quite a responsible generation. The majority of kids surveyed, and this was in the Sparks and Honey survey, said they would rather save money than spend it. Birth rate plummet, and the percentage of teenagers using illegal substances is down. They're very informed generation, actually, about the environment, economics, and terrorism, and I think this is a lot to do with what is coming through in the education. With 75% of them saying they're concerned about world hunger and man's impact on the planet. So we're going to see lots of that, industries that are in, that kind of thing. We're going to see lots of organic food. We're going to see organic products. We might see a bit of a rebel against products with lots of chemicals and things like that in, which is a really good thing. Here it is. Salad consumption is expected to increase the most among Gen Xers over the next 5 years, followed by sandwiches and breakfast foods that require some cooking, such as eggs and pancakes. Which it just fascinates me. The food thing just fascinates me. How do you connect them with them? Because, whether you're a parent, a coach, a teacher, a marketer, how do you connect with them? Well, you've got to be honest. There's no flannel in this generation whatsoever. Let me just take another drink here. There's no hiding behind shiny Simon Cowell anymore. They want honest and they want real. They also want people to be reachable and down to earth. So they, think of the relationships that they've made with these YouTubers. Those YouTubers are in front of them. They're being real. They're being honest. They're in their own homes. They put a comment on that person's YouTuber. That that YouTuber gets back to them. It's very rich, but it's very down to us. So I'm gonna think, and we may see the celebrity culture not disappear but dissipate. I certainly can tell you that this generation, from what I see, are absolutely not obsessed with celebrities half as much as the generation, which I think is really good. They are really not going to expect to have to wait for something. They're using Netflix. If they want to watch something, they want to watch it when they want to watch it. TV programming, the way it exists now, I don't know how much longer that's got, but it's not appealing to the young people. They want stuff on demand, and they want it when they want it. It's got to, everything that you put in front of them has got to be relevant. The time that they're spending online means they're very discerning. So if you want to market them or get them to, engage in something, it's got to be relevant to them, or else they just won't engage. But not just relevant to them, but relevant to their needs, relevant to what it is they want. And remember, this is 75% of them worried about the impact we're having on the environment and, things like that. So world hunger, and if you want to engage them, it's probably got to have a real community, element to it, something that they can go out and change the world. Remember, 40% of them think they're going to change the world anyway, so it's got to be inclusive. This is a generation that really can't remember a time where people were separated for any sort of reason, where people were persecuted for anything, where they didn't have rooms full of very diverse people with diverse sexualities and all sorts of things. everything has to be inclusive to them. It's almost like talking a foreign language if you talk in any other way to them. And they want something to be individual. They want to know that you've sort of listened to them, you've looked at them, and you know it's relevant to them. So I think everything. The only way I can kind of think about it when I think about Generation Z is that for me, this generation brings everything back to the heart and back to the home, which I think is a really, really lovely thing. Generation X took everything away from the home and out into streets. Generation Y, they were very individualistic generation. So these children want things to be individual to them, but they're not individualistic at all. But Generation Y was. So they took everything out, and it became more shiny and bright, and it all became about me, me, me. Their families were important, but only for their, to get them where they wanted to get to. And any Generation Y is listening, I love you, and I mean that in the loveliest possible way. But this generation, they bring everything back to the heart, to what really matters. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it honest. Let's eat healthy, fresh food. Let's be traditional. Let's get back to the family. Let's think about how we can help our community. Bring everything back to the heart and back to the home. And I think that's a really beautiful way to look at this generation, actually. So I'm going to stop sharing my with you here, and hopefully we should be able to get me back up on there. There you go. So that was really all I've got to share with you here. I know that there's going to be lots and lots of lots and lots of questions about this, and lots of people that disagree with me. And you know what, you're all entitled to your opinions, and I really, really don't mind that you've got a different opinion. I'm not going to argue the point with you, though, so just so you know, if you've got a different opinion to me, great, fine, have that. I'm not going to argue with you. This is just my opinion from what I see here in the UK. Yes, I have reached out to look at some stats and some evidence, but mainly it's from what I see. So my opinion and my experience can't be wrong because it's my experience, but I do welcome other people's views, of course. I do. I just might not listen to them, just so you know. If you do have any questions that you want to ask me about this, then you can email me at sarah@sarahnewton.com, or ask them below here if you can do that, or some way. We'll get to me some way anyway, and I'm sure it'll all be fine. I look forward to speaking to you soon. I hope you did learn something. And I'm really excited, actually, about this generation. I love them. I adore them. I think they're an amazing generation, and I was really happy when they came along, and I think they're going to be so much fun. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye, or evening, or wherever you are. Bye-bye.